Shisacele, Washacele, Shisampama, Washampama. Bheki Cele came to the ad hoc committee boxing like Mike Tyson. He came in singing like primetime Neo. Remember Neo? He was so sick of love songs. Now, Bheki Cele was so sick of attacks on the PKTT, so sick of Senzo Mchunu, so sick of Vusi Matlala Wetamanyala, so sick of Brown Mkhotsi. The man was singing like Neo. I wonder if he's now going to get 4 wives because that's what Neo has. Bheki Cele, are you going to get 4 wives? General Bheki Cele, are you going to? Because you were singing like Neo in that commission. Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Today, Bheki Cele had to give his testimony under oath to the ad hoc committee on these allegations that General Mkhwanazi raised. And if 6 July was an explosive day, 23 October was another bombshell. Bheki Cele was in there and he was eager to be there. He was so eager to be there that he paid for the flights himself. He said those who said he was snubbing the commission or reluctant to come to the commission were wrong. And indeed, I'm one of the people who thought he didn't want to come based on what we had heard as the testimony was being prepared. There was even a discussion at some point of a subpoena, but it looked like Bheki Cele wasn't willing to come, and that may have been him setting up the stage for what happened today. Bheki Cele was not holding back. He was taking shots at everybody, and he was even taking shots at the MK party and the diamond dealer who he says is one of their funders. He held nothing back. I was actually wondering what strategy former Minister Bheki Cele would take today. And it turns out he came to accomplish 2 main things. Number 1, restore his legacy and give his version as to why he was fired by Jacob Zuma. He is a very sophisticated politician, and he came to play the game of politics on the biggest stage this year. And he was a striker. He was Saka on that committee. He was taking shots left, right, and center. He knew the whole country would be watching. The whole country would be expecting to hear about all of his connections and hear his denials and maybe see a Shadrack Sibia type of performance. But no, the man was taking shots and he was not missing. He was not missing. So the first thing that he did was to play the game of politics, rewrite the narrative, or give his version as to why Jacob Zuma fired him from the position. And he says it was not about the building. It was because he was sometimes taking decisions which were not viewed to be, in line with the instructions that he was being given, too independent for Jacob Zuma. And Jacob Zuma meets him, has a discussion with him, and tells him, "Uhambe kahle, mfana kithi." And then he doesn't come back. He doesn't even know that he's getting fired. So he tells those stories. That was strategy 1. And I think he discharged that. Bheki Cele is an exciting politician. He really is. Number 2, he aligned himself with the winning side. That was, I think, the second part of the strategy. The winning side in this whole saga is the side that is fighting the criminals, the side that is trying to get the characters like KT Molefe, Vusi Matlala Wetamanyala in prison, the side that is trying to expose this Big 5 cartel. He came in on that side, right? He made several tactical moves to execute that strategy. His Zugzwang was executed in this way. His Petrov defense, if you will, was executed in this way. Number 1, he attacked the criticisms of the political killings task team. For instance, the cost of the task team. Number 2, he confirmed that there has been undue influence on prosecutors and even judges by powerful cartels. And he was making reference to the cartels that operate in Cape Town. Number 3, he attacked the disbanding of the political killings task team and the methodology in which it was done, and this whole argument that the IMC was no longer existent, and because the IMC was no longer existent, we should not take into cognizance all of the processes which needed to be followed by the current minister. Number 4, he distanced himself from Minister Mkhunu. He distanced himself from all of those people who have been trying to create any lane of justification. He actually defended General Dumsani Khumalo. He defended General Mkhwanazi, although he took a few side shots at him as well, some of which were a little bit unfair because he spoke about apartheid police and all of that, and then Mkhwanazi was one of them, but Mkhwanazi started in 1993, so some of those criticisms were not fully landing. He went in on Mary DeHaas, Mother Mary, Au contrary, he came for you. He came for you, Barry D. Haas. And basically, he was like, her research is wrong. He was saying a lot of things were wrong. He went through the letter saying, this is wrong. That's wrong. This didn't start in 2019. It started in 2018. It was like a teacher marking an exam and giving you 0. Why pass? Noma why fail? Mthunu. Bheki Cele is saying why fail, baba. He's saying why fail ukuthi spend the text tip ngendlela right. Ngendlela ekotho. That's why he's saying, hey, those were the two strategic moves that he made. Then he made a major accusation. Bheki Cele claims that Brown Mkhotsi, Senzo Mchunu, Vusi Matlala, Wetsamanyala, I should have said Brown Envelope Mkhotsi, and General Shadrack Sibiya were all plotting to deal with Dumisani Khumalo. And he says that Vusi Muzi, Kat Matlala, Wetsamanyala told him that he was being used in a political game of funding a vehicle for Senzo Mchunu to become a president or deputy president. And in all of this discussion, you could tell now, he's aligning with Masemola, he's aligning with Mkhwanazi, he's aligning with all of the testimony that the police who are on the ground have been giving. He is team police right now, not team politician. That's the position that he's taken. And then something very extraordinary happened. It was breaking news, even as I was recording this, is that General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi sent a message to the senior counsel retracting something that he had said, right? So he had said that Vusi Matlala had sent money to Bheki Cele. During the proceedings, he sent a message retracting, withdrawing that allegation in its totality. So General Mkhwanazi is also now, they're together. They're aligned. Not like together in a faction or whatever, but it seems they are aligned in terms of what they are telling the committee. Ooh, shisampama. Washampama. General Bheki Cele was making the room laugh. He was making you can tell a lot of the politicians have a good relationship with him. He looked comfortable with the political moment. He displayed a thorough understanding of the security cluster, where he's been working since 1994. So you have to understand that he does understand that cluster quite well. The issues of policing, the history, the personalities, the criminals who he has been involved in getting into prison, and those that he has known and spoken to. He was really coming across as forthright, honest. You know, that whole question of immediately came up. He responded to it, said, no, immediately means now. It means manje. Yo. Another politician once said, Umuntu uyalimala. Hey, Senzo Mchunu uyalimala in that hearing. It's a lot. Now I'm going to play you 2 highlights from the proceedings so you get a feel for what was going down and what is still going down at the time of my recording. But I think we got the gist of it for me to give you these first impressions. So here's some of what Bheki Cele was saying today. He wasn't playing.
The minister cannot go establish or disestablish. So you still have to go through the national commissioner for establishment and disestablishment. So there are a few of those that I will remember. By the way, this one is part of it, though on a larger scale, because it was announced by the president, calling the interministerial. But there are some of them. For instance, if you go to Manguzi, there is a lot of problem between Mozambique and South African border. It's called Operation Kotwemvubu. That is ministerial, but established by the national commissioner. One big operation, quite big, is what is going on in the Western Cape. Initially, it was called Operation Thunder. That started almost on the same time with the PKTT. Operation Thunder was changed later to be Operation Lockdown, and that still continues. It's one of the biggest. I don't have figures of finances, but I can assure you that is not cheap, because while I was still there, in 25 months, we paid 116 million for that operation. And it has not been scaled down ever since up to this point, though it has changed the name. It's still continuing here in Western Cape as Operation Lockdown. So it's an operation where almost every second month, police from different provinces are invited to come in Western Cape. And all those police SC, they live in the hotels, 200 of them. And there was a negotiated price for them to be, which was 800 rands a night for single police in the hotels. So you would imagine that is expensive for 200 people to sleep 800 rand a night in the hotel from 2018 up to this point, because it's still continuing. So it's not true that is only PKT that has been operating and paying money for. There are other operations that have happened. This Operation Thunder is one big of them. Those billions from the South African police were found from Kara. Were paid from Kara. Kara, if I'm not mistaken, is a criminal assets recovery account. Now, across the justice system, one major problem for the police is something called bail. Well, I'm always told that is a constitutional right. That thing is a mess. That thing called bail is a mess. You know, you go to Tembisa, you find a guy called BP. BP had 43 cash heists and 5 bails. 43 cash heists and 5 bails.
43 cases or 43 alleged?
43.
Alleged cases.
No, he takes the money.
You say that is when he explained that he had been approached to fund a project by someone who aims to be the ANC president or deputy president, and the Minister Mkunu's name was mentioned.
Correct.
And that Brown Mkhotsi had met with him and Mr. Minister Mkunu. Why would they have mentioned that to you? You are now, even as we speak, I don't think, are you still active in the political arena? Why would they mention this specifically to you?
Who? Brown?
Matala. Yes.
Because it says my name was mentioned. To say, we'll work well with you so long we don't work with Zuma and Cele. In that particular meeting. So that's one reason he wants to see me. He said he realizes that it's being abused. But the second one is an affidavit that was to be prepared to arrest Sibia.
Yes.
Not Sibia. Kumalo. General Tumsan Kumalo. Too many because there are other Kumalos that were still coming. This is Tumsan Kumalo.
Woo! It's hot. It's hot. Here are my reflections on his testimony today in the ad hoc committee. Number one, I was genuinely surprised by the energy and the vitality of General Bheki Cele, retired, if you want to call him that. I must say the man is still full of energy. He is still packing a political punch. You know, I once saw him in a nightclub, you know, chilling and making this young lady move so that he could see the stage. I'm like, what is Bheki Cele doing? Man, that guy is young at heart. That guy is young at heart. He's approaching 80, if I'm not mistaken, but he is still full of it in terms of energy, vitality. You know, they once said one politician was a tiger. Yo, it looks as if we got another one of the, you know, most energetic politicians in the game right now, right? So that was something that I just thought would be something worth mentioning. And I don't know if you picked up the same thing. He came across likable. He came across like comfortable, as if he has nothing to hide. That may be because he's a sophisticated politician, someone who knows how to play the game. It may also be because he's just telling the truth and he has nothing to hide. Number two, there was an interesting discussion about how he met Vusi Matlala through Spamandla Mabonga, who was killed earlier this year in a shootout at a nightclub in Sandton thereabouts. I think the shooting took place on 24 Central outside Solo, this nightclub in Sandton. It's a restaurant too, if I'm not mistaken. He was rushed to the hospital, but he didn't make it. Now, this guy was a notorious guy as well, collecting money in nightclubs from people who owed. I don't know who they owed, but he was the guy to go to at a security company. You'd go in, try to collect money. There was a shooting prior to that in another year, I don't know these nightclubs and whatever. And he also had a Hosh Karimama, you know, one of those who was on TV and all of that. So you see the Hosh curry behavior, it's not a fake thing. It's the Hosh shenanigans are real. And you can see how the Hosh shenanigans, there's always a Hosh curry mama in the mix. Somewhere, somehow, you'll find Hosh, 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 Hosh. So, you know, when I looked at Bheki Cele's address at the funeral of Natim Tetwa, the former police minister, I felt like he was angry, he was frustrated, I felt like he was lashing out. Today was a totally different performance. It was a totally different performance. Now, I want to make my third point. Bheki Cele, so that was just the whole Mabonga thing was just an interesting factor because, you know, he seems to know him because his father was in the taxi industry. Bheki Cele has strong ties to the taxi industry. He also spoke about how the taxi industry is not a syndicate. There's a lot that was covered that I'm not going to dive into here, but one of the big points I want to make in my first take of this testimony, even as it's happening, Bheki Cele confirmed many of the things that I've been saying on the dissection. Number one, that the task team is effective, it was effective, and it continues to be necessary. You know, one of the arguments I've been wanting to make, and sometimes I just forget to make on the show, is that the argument that the task team is not necessary is like telling a healthy person who's fit and buff and everything that they don't need to go to gym and telling them that gym is not, you don't need to work out. No, they look that way because they need to work out. And Bheki Cele made the argument that, well, if you don't need something because there are zero incidents, why do we have all of these VIP protective services for the president, the ministers, etc.? Because there's been no incident. And the argument he was making is that sometimes the absence of the incident is the evidence of the necessity of the protection, the prevention, etc. You know, so it's like if you use protection and you don't have babies, that's why you don't have babies. It's not because now if you get rid of the protection, the babies will show up. The babies will show up, right? So he argued the task team is effective. He argued also that the task team could not be disbanded by the minister in the manner which it was, which is one of the viewpoints that we've taken on this show, is that like the minister's argument just doesn't make sense. He also made a point that I made around Vusi Matlala, although I would have expected him to know this dude because he seems to know a lot of these people, Vusi Kek and all of that, who are operating in Pretoria and other places. But he says Vusi Matlala was flying under the radar. But as soon as he became privy to the same information that we saw, he said, no, there's no way that this guy should not be somebody that is of interest to the police and somebody who the police flag. He denies that he was involved in whatsoever in giving off the tender and all of that. So that's something that he confirms that, you know, that flying under the radar of Matlala is very strange, right? Then he gives a confirmation of what we saw in the reporting from News 24 and other places, that there's a campaign, or there was a campaign, or some version of a campaign to push Minister Senzo Mchunu to the position of either vice president or president. And this is something that was being pushed at some point early in the year. Remember the conversations about Patrice Motsepe running for president of the ANC, and the name that was being bandied as the name from KZN as vice president was Senzo Mchunu. Right, it was reported by several media houses. I actually made a video on it and I posted the media houses that were covering it, and many of them were City Press, News 24. That was the basket that was covering it, and he makes reference to that. Right, one of the things that he also says that confirms what we've been saying on the show is that General Dumisani Khumalo is doing a good job. We all saw that from the manner of the testimony that he gave, but also that the charges against him seem to be designed to derail him from doing his work effectively. That's something that we saw even with our own eyes and were able to deduce and make inferences from. And he was giving some also very strong criticisms of bail, especially for the syndicates which are involved in the Schedule 6 offenses. He gave numerous examples of instances where crime is being organized and executed in prison, CIT robberies conducted by people who are out on bail, who continue to conduct those robberies. All of those criticisms, I think, were fair, and there needs to be a reflection, I think, by Parliament around whether or not there needs to be an amendment to the Criminal Procedure Act to change the manner in which some of these things of bail are being dealt with by magistrates, by judges. I think he was actually echoing some of the stuff that we've said. If I didn't know any better, because the guy says he doesn't have WhatsApp, he didn't say he watches YouTube, but it felt like Bheki Cele watches the dissection. I don't know what you felt when you saw that, but I was like, Minister Bheki Cele is a dissector, man. He's not with the Hosh curry behavior. He's not with the Hosh curry behavior. So he didn't deny his relationship with Vusi Matlala, and he was very open about how it came to be, and it started in December, he says. And I think his openness and candidness about all of that helps him on the credibility side of the equation. I don't think that there's now so much of a cloud over him. We'll have to see what Vusi Matlala himself says. It looks to me like the person who was trying to really create a bigger relationship here is Vusi Matlala with Bheki Cele, right? He was trying to see what he could do and manipulate the process so that he doesn't lose his tender, maybe play a divide and rule, all of that. So that's probably what was happening if Minister Bheki Cele's version is true. But because he was so outright and honest about it, I'm inclined to believe him. I'm inclined to believe him at this point. Right. Now, the other thing that I've been thinking about is who's going to be the fall guy for this whole thing? And it looks to me like, one of the people who will not make it out of this process is likely to be Minister Senzo Mchunu and all of the people that he has been associated with directly, indirectly, some of those he denies, whatever. Because even now, former Minister Bheki Cele was making it clear that he thinks that these people talk. Brown Mkhotsi, Vusi Matlala, Sibiya, Katiso Molefe, all of these people who are somehow in that Hosh cabal. I don't think that they'll make it out of this process. The way that Bheki Cele came at these people, I don't think that they're going to make it. So I thought maybe he's the big fish that may fall. And we'll see how the questions went. And when he came in there very strong, the manner that he was, I was like, I don't think he's the fall guy. And I don't think, in fact, even the ANC can afford to have him as the fall guy. If we were having a real politic conversation, it may very well be that Minister Senzo Mchunu may have to take the fall for this. Somebody has to take the fall at some point, because this scandal is not going back. The Pandora's box, once open, stays open. And we've already heard too much that cannot reverse the hands of time like R. Kelly wished he could once upon a time. And may he remain in prison. I'm not saying I endorse anything that he did, just saying that he had that song. Right now, my last thing here that I want to say as I conclude the video is that I thought, based on the reporting earlier, that there were many connections between Bheki Cele and Vusi Matlala because of the penthouse, the description of the business associate. But if his version is accurate, then that relationship may have been exaggerated by the media houses. And he seemed to have some criticism as well about certain media houses. Not of the journalists, but sometimes he was like, no, but when I told them these particular things, because when they said he called 10 times, I was like, that's a lot of times. But the fact that General Mkhwanazi sent the message that he did just before this thing got going or during the process tells me that he's not convinced that Bheki Cele is in the mix. He's not convinced that Bheki Cele is part of the Hosh Curry behavior at this point. Based on the evidence and based on the posturing of Bheki Cele, it may be that that particular connection may have been exaggerated, which then takes us back to some of the stuff that Witness B was talking about today and some of the connections which we need to explore, which I'm not going to do now. And, I was preparing my Witness B episode. It's ready, but this stuff was just too juicy. I had to jump in at this time. Have you been watching Bheki Cele? What impression did he make on you? Let's meet in the comment section and have a conversation. I'll catch you there.